There we go. All right, this is June 24, 5, 6, 7th, 2024. Exactly. The reason that the way I got that was I counted 4 up from June 23rd. For those who don't know, that was hope and possibility. We're going to recap that here in a second. So first, yeah, we're going to do some updates, right? What's been going on, what's coming up in the summer of Achilles. It's going to be hot Achilles summer. And then we're going to talk about our July 4th workouts. We're going to touch on a bit of events and things we're going to be at in July. Some things, some updates with New Jersey, and then we'll get into a couple of questions and then Q&A. So it should be neat and concise of a meeting. Feel free to chat with each other in the chat. I think that's about it. All right. Last Sunday, June 23rd, was Hope Possibility. It was really, really hot. I ran with my good friend Joe in honor. I know I saw a lot of you out there. It was really fun. Catherine even ran, which is really cool. Yes. When I say even, I mean, you know, as opposed to odd, even and odd. So yeah, Catherine ran with Tiki and Katie Sanchez from New Jersey. That was really fun. It was more like swimming rather than running, if you ask me. But it was really cool. I saw a lot of you out there. I saw Declan. Declan actually inspired me to run quickly. I was going to take it really easy and chill. And then mile 1, I ran into Declan, and Declan was like, "Why are you going so slow?" And I was like, "All right, fine, I'm going to run a little faster." So we ended up running together for the last 3, and that was really, really fun. Coming up next week is 4th of July. And so some of the workouts that are happening on Thursday, 4th of July will be canceled. It's kind of workout dependent and program dependent. So just make sure you check in on whether or not that workout that you're trying to go to will be canceled or not. That weekend though, July 6th and 7th, those workouts are fully on, fully happening. Catherine is not dying, but those are fully on. Because we know people love to hang out and mingle and chat regardless of if it's a holiday or not. So that's going to be really cool. I though really sadly will not be there because I'm attending the National Federation of the Blind convention down in Orlando, and I already know that a lot of you will be down there with me. We got some athletes. I know we've got Lamar coming, got Emmeline coming, Amanda coming, a few others that I might be forgetting. My 2 roommates, Simon and Andrew, are going as well. So yeah, a lot of you will be joining me down there. As a side note, if you are attending the NFB convention, we're going to be organizing a couple of runs, some unofficial Achilles run/meetups down in Orlando. So hit me up if you are going to be down there and are interested. Second, after I get back from Orlando, I'm actually heading right back out to Vegas with Catherine over here. Vegas, baby. And we're going to do the Disability In conference, which for those who don't know, Disability In is a little bit more of a B2B networking kind of conference, a little less like consumer facing. So basically a lot of the DEI, divisions of companies will be there, just kind of talking best practices and things like that. So if you know anyone going to Disability In, hit me up as well, because it'll be cool to meet. Maybe it's like a friend of a friend, twice removed, something like that. It'd be still cool to meet up with them. Yeah, and then next we have 2 New Jersey updates. So New Jersey State Triathlon is July 20th and 21st. That's going to be really cool. We have, as of right now, we have 5 New York City athletes participating. That number can grow. Most are doing the Olympic distance on Sunday, July 21st. But again, be in touch. Let me know if you're interested in doing either one of those races, or if you're a guide or volunteer and interested in helping out, we can always use the help. So yeah, let me know. And lastly, there's now a Jersey City Achilles workout. So I know a lot of us are New York City based. But if you feel like working out in Jersey City, or you live in Jersey City, you should hit them up. That's Thursday evenings, right? Thursday evenings? Thursday evening, 6 o'clock, Jersey City. Just add New Jersey to your Rosterify profile if you don't have that already, and all of those workouts should pop up on your dashboard. And that's how Rosterify works, because it's the rostification of the Achilles experience. It's great. I think those are the major updates, right? Am I forgetting something?
Achilles said if you were going to Disney while you were there, and if she was blind, she would join you.
If I was going to Disney and if you were blind.
Yes.
I could be convinced. One of my roommates, Simon, yeah, some of you know Simon, he is in love with like theme parks and things like that. I don't know for me if it's a blind thing or not. Maybe y'all can, my blind folks in the chat, just comment if it is or if you agree or disagree. I never really got a thrill out of it because, I don't really see the heights and the speed, right? Obviously, you're just like kind of like sitting there feeling like you're moving forwards, but you don't actually see the whole scenery and stuff of roller coasters and whatnot. So I don't know. I was never into roller coasters. Maybe you feel differently. Let me know.
We have a note that Andrew wants to
Who?
know. Andrew.
If you're my roommate, Andrew, then no. But if you're a different Andrew, then maybe we'll talk. All right, cool. I think those are the major updates. Catherine, anything you want to add?
No, I thought that was great.
All right, cool. Let's get into, so, okay, since the last meeting, we had quite a few questions actually come in, some really good ones, some ones that I'll build into some of the Connect sessions later this summer. I picked 2 questions that if you saw the email from about 30 minutes ago, you kind of got the preview. I thought it'd be like topical for most people. I have like a half a question that I'm gonna add as a bonus one, and then we'll tackle some questions that you may have right afterwards. So, file in, put in some questions in the chat. Catherine will look through them. But yeah, let's go with the first one.
So with the current heat wave, I'm struggling to keep up with my fitness routine. I dislike doing long runs on the treadmill. How can I maintain my fitness without running outside in the extreme heat or resorting to long treadmill sessions? This could have been me, it was not, but
It might have been Catherine, yes. So really hot outside, how do we address that with training, right? So great questions. I guess the first thing to tackle is running out in the heat even beneficial, right? Like, is it worth kind of struggling through the high humidity and high heat? Does it give us extra speed or whatever because it's like working extra hard? The answer is it kind of depends, which is a really annoying answer. Generally speaking, it doesn't actually benefit us to add that extra heat stress. Like we don't actually necessarily get faster because we're putting ourselves through more stress. The caveat is unless you have a race coming up in the short term that you expect it to be really, really hot. That being said, even if you did have that, I would argue that doing your key workouts, so your intervals, like the really important ones, in colder climates, like indoors with AC, that's actually beneficial because you get more of the adaptation out of the workout because you're able to push harder, right? Because it's not as hot. And then you do your like really easy kind of chill runs outside in the heat. That way you get the benefit of adapting to the heat while you're still able to hit your numbers and your paces and stuff by doing the harder workouts indoors in the cold. So that's kind of that. What was the other part of that? How do you kind of maximize or how do you hack the hot outside versus being really bored indoors? I totally get that because I think treadmill runs are the most mind-numbing thing possible. Like, I could have music blasting, a TV show on, like podcast going on at the same time, and I would get bored on a treadmill after 15 minutes. It's just, I don't know, treadmills are not my cup of tea. But that being said, yes, it is absolutely really, really hot outside. So one kind of hack that I have for anyone interested in that is actually doing, so there's a pendulum when you're thinking about workout adaptation and benefit. You have time and intensity, or duration and intensity. And so on one end of that pendulum, right, you have really, really long but easy, like non-intense workouts. And on the other opposite end of that, you have really, really short but super intense workouts, right? So as you kind of mess with that pendulum swing, you can kind of go one or the other. You don't really combine really long and really intense workouts or really short and easy workouts for the purposes of adaptation. And so if you're gonna really, if you want to do as less time as possible on the treadmill, I would suggest you do as intense of a run as you can safely do on the treadmill. So just an example of that, like if you want a sample workout, I would say warm up for 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes, whatever, just easy run. And then the actual workout can be just 8 intervals of 1 minute at really hard, fast pace, and then 2 minutes easy. So that's 8 minutes of hard work, 16 minutes of recovery. So it's 24 minutes, right, total running, plus a 10-minute workout. That's 34 minutes plus a couple minute cool down. So total, you have like 37 minutes, 38 minutes. And that's like a really, really solid workout effort that you can get. And if you want to shorten that even more, cut the rest from 2 minutes down to 1 minute. And that way it's 1 minute on, 1 minute off, 8 times, right? So that's 16 minutes total, 10-minute warm up, 4-minute cool down. That's a half an hour workout. And that gives you like a really solid adaptation. And so if you're like, oh, I have New York City Marathon, I want to start training now, but it's really hot outside. How do I do that? Like, yes, you still need some of the longer runs, but if you do more of the intense stuff indoors when it's cold during the summer, it's a lot better than just trying to slog through a few miles outside and feeling like absolute trash. So it's a little tip for you right there. Catherine?
Okay, okay, so we're doing hard things inside.
Yeah.
And outside taking lots of breaks.
Yeah, or okay, so let's say your normal, if you want to do a 6-mile run outside and your normal pace for a 6-mile run, let's just say it's 10-minute miles. If it's 95 degrees outside and really humid, if you try to do that same 10-minute pace versus the 6 miles, you're going to walk a lot, right? So one could argue that if you wanted the same result, you should lower that pace. Like, don't be so like fixated on your pace. Actually run slower so that you're able to walk less. So you're still getting that straight up duration run. Even doing 5 miles at a slower pace so that the total time you're on your feet equal about the same, right? So 6 miles, 10-minute pace, that's an hour worth of running. If you still have a 1 hour easy run to do, you could do 5 miles at a 12.5 pace or something, right? And it'll roughly equal about the same. So that's another thing.
Great.
Yeah.
Next question. Last month you discussed using saunas to boost performance. Should I incorporate cold showers into my routine as well? What are some of the benefits of cold showers?
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So actually, I was surprised at the feedback from last month's subject, right? So for those who didn't tune in, we talked all about heat therapy. So how to use sauna, steam rooms to boost athletic performance. I thought it was kind of more of like a niche question, but actually a lot of like way more people were interested in it than I thought they would be. So that's really good. So this follow-up question, right? It's about cold. How do we do cold stuff? So I guess to lay the foundations, right? The benefit of hot and cold, generally speaking, if we're talking about athletics, is raising and lowering your core temperature, right? That's like really the root of what we're trying to get at, is either you're raising your core temperature to elicit heat stress, or you're lowering your core temperature to elicit kind of vasoconstriction, as in cold stress, right? So if it gets really, really hot, your vessels, vasodilation, right? It means they get really big. And it's just kind of, that's why you look kind of red and puffy, right? If it's really hot outside, it's because there's just blood flow. If you're really cold, so if you're in a cold shower, or more accurately, like an ice plunge or an ice tub, it's called vasoconstriction. Your vessels, your capillaries kind of shrink down because it's trying to drive as much blood as possible to your core to keep your core temperature high. And so that's why you kind of, if you look at someone who comes out of a sauna, they'll look kind of reddish, right? It's because all the blood's up to the surface of their skin. Cold showers are good, but they don't nearly lower your core temperature as effectively as submerging yourself in cold. And so if possible, if this is what you're trying to do, doing like an ice tub, filling your bathtub with cold water and dumping some ice in it, or if you're lucky enough to belong to a gym that has a cold plunge. I don't, unfortunately. I would love it if my gym did, but doing something like that. I'll talk about a kind of a bootleg ice plunge in a second, because my apartment doesn't actually have a tub, so we just have a shower.
I'm concerned about how you do.
Oh, I'm gonna tell you in a second how I do a cold plunge, because it's kind of gnarly, but it involves Home Depot. But anyway, yeah. So the real benefit again is lowering your core body temperature, right? And so the biggest concern I hear from people is that they don't want to blunt the adaptation, or the adaptation signals. It's kind of a moot point. If you really want to split hairs, then I would not do any sort of cold therapy within like an hour or two after an intense workout. Some studies show that if you do like really cold exposure right after an intense workout, it'll blunt that adaptation, because the whole point of the cold is that it's lowering inflammation, right? But acute inflammation is actually good for you, because you do a hard workout, right? The hard workout, your body perceives as stress, and your body kind of adapting to that stress is what actually equates to you getting faster, right? So without that stress, AKA expressed by inflammation, you don't actually get faster. So, let's just say you're doing a bicep curl, right? You're actually adding stress to the bicep muscle. It's doing like a lot of like micro tears, and the healing from that stress is what's actually causing hypertrophy in terms of resistance training or faster runs, if you're talking about speed runs. And so you don't want to blunt the inflammation necessarily, acutely speaking, right after a workout. Now, for most people, like we're talking totally like in the weeds, like it doesn't really matter. But if you really want to get technical, or if you hear like people in the gym talking about, oh, like don't do cold plunges right after you do your workout, this is why. And so a few hours after a hard workout is great. At nighttime is great. The morning is great. Like I personally forget about athletic performance, just cold showers in general, right? Like I don't think you can feel down after you get out of a cold shower. You feel like amazing. You feel happy. You're like, oh my God, this is great. Let's go crush the world. So yeah, that's why I'm a big fan. The way I do a cold plunge, and it's kind of bootleg, but if you don't have a bathtub, you can technically get like a big tote, and not like a tote bag, like a container tote. Home Depot sells these like 70-gallon big plastic heavy duty tote containers, and you can actually like make your own little tub with that, and you just dump a bunch of ice from like an ice freezer. I have a deep freeze like separate from my fridge, and I just have like some frozen big blocks of ice. I just dump it in there and I just get in, and that's kind of how I do a cold plunge tub. So, and
Are your knees hold like close to your chest?
No, okay. So for those that don't know, I'm 6'5", so I don't fit in most New York City bathtubs as it is. And so I actually went to Home Depot with a volunteer with a guide from Achilles, and I was like, I'm not gonna climb into all these tubs in Home Depot necessarily, but like I might. So I climbed into a few just to like check, like, can I actually like extend my legs and have everything covered? Because you want to get above your chest, right? You want to get right up to your shoulders. Because that getting your legs in the cold is good for like acute lowering of inflammation. But if you really want to just lower your whole core body temperature, obviously you have to get your whole body in. So yeah, I think that's the main stuff. One thing I'll say, a little bit is better than nothing, right? Some people like hate the cold. And so if you're like used to taking really, really hot showers, a good place to start is actually just less hot showers and just slowly working your way down from there. I think you'd be surprised how energized you feel after getting out of a cool shower, if all what you're used to is really hot showers. So give it a shot. Let me know what you think.
I have never taken a less than boiling hot shower.
Really?
So let you know.
Yeah, I would say for people who also, if you have like struggles with sleep, taking a cold shower or a cold bath right before you go to bed can be helpful, right? Because the whole like circadian rhythm and sleep cycle, your body lowers its core body temperature by a little bit before it falls asleep, and as it's asleep and as it's going to wake itself up in the morning, you kind of raise your temperature back up. And so, which is why like doing a hot tub right before you go to bed, not necessarily the best thing. So if you want to try to hack that, then try to do like a cold thing right before you go to bed, and that could help potentially with sleep. So yeah.
Cool. I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so you talk a lot about like optimizing training runs and heat and temperature and stuff, but let's say hypothetically, hope and possibility, it's 95 degrees out. You finish a run and your electrolytes are out of balance, you're too hot. Kind of what would you recommend? Because that's going to happen to a lot of people with their training. What would you recommend as next steps with that?
Yeah, that's great. So if you've already dug yourself, well, so first step is obviously like not getting to that point, right? Which sounds like overly simplified, but a lot of people, you'd be surprised, like just don't even think about it until it's too late. And so understanding where you get what you need, and in this case, you're asking about electrolytes, right? So understanding that like, oh, if I get Gatorade from the course, that doesn't really have electrolytes. Like if you look on the bottle and you compare how many milligrams of potassium, sodium, magnesium that it contains versus how much you actually want, it basically has none of it, right? So like understanding how much you're getting in while you're running, that's key. And then having easily accessible sources of it. So like when you finish running, you get a bag, in the bag is more Gatorade, not, a bunch of electrolytes. So if you want, like carrying a little plastic baggie and you can just have like salt tabs in it. They have Salt Stick is the name of a company that makes these little like capsules, and it has sodium, potassium, magnesium in those capsules. You can't just carry the capsules, obviously, because like they'll melt in your pocket. But if you have it in a little Ziploc bag, you can just swallow a couple of those with a bottle of water after you're done racing or even during the race. Having packets of electrolyte powder, like Element, that's LMNT, Element, is really, it has a lot of electrolytes. The only downside of it is that it's a powder. So you need like a bottle to shake the powder up in to drink it, right? Versus the capsules, if all you have is a water fountain, you can still like put the capsule in your mouth and drink it down with the water fountain. So a little more versatile. But yeah, I'd say, I mean, it's important, and the longer you wait to replenish, the harder it is on the body to replenish it once you finally start ingesting it. Yeah, I think that's the main thing.
Great.
Yeah.
What do you think about alternating cold and heat for recovery?
Yeah, that's great. So I'm assuming you're talking about like literally alternating within the same session, right? Versus one day you do cold, one day you do heat. So what you're talking is, a lot of people call it contrast therapy. And oftentimes you go from sauna to cold plunge. Like that's the ideal. Sauna is great because you're able to get much higher temperatures in the sauna than, for example, like a hot tub. So like I personally, the ideal for me would be sauna into cold plunge tub. Or I mean, you totally, again, you could totally do hot tub to cold plunge tub, but alternating really, it amplifies that vasoconstriction and dilation process, right? So like you jump in the hot, your veins try to dilate to try to, deal with that heat. 1 minute later, you jump in the cold, your veins try to constrict to try to, also deal with that cold. And you're just doing that back and forth. In Colorado Springs, there's a training center for some athletes in Colorado Springs. And that was the first time I ever experienced like a proper dedicated hot to cold contrast therapy center. And it was crazy. It was like 8 or 9 of us, and we'd be like screaming at the top of our lungs. So you like jump in the cold, timer goes down 1 minute, and then immediately after the minute, you like jump out, and then 3 feet away is the hot tub. So you like jump into that. 1 minute, you feel like all your like nerves are kind of burning because it was freezing and now it's boiling, and you're kind of recovering. And finally, when you're about to feel like you're not numb anymore, you have to get out and get back into cold, and just go back and forth and back and forth. And it's great. I like ending with the cold. I know people don't like ending with the cold. I would suggest ending with the cold. And even if it's just like, I forget what it is, if it's 6 or 8 times 1 minute cold, 1 minute hot, 1 minute cold, 1 minute hot, 1 minute cold, you kind of keep going back and forth. I wouldn't really, if all you have is a shower, I probably wouldn't suggest it, just because the shower hitting you really doesn't change your body temperature quickly. And so doing those rapid hot to cold in the shower is less effective than just straight up doing a cold shower. But if you have 2 tubs, then solid, I would do that.
All right, so
Yeah.
there's a few comments. Someone is going to NFB.
Oh,
Excited
cool.
to see you there.
Who's that?
They're brand new. Mana Hill is the person's name.
Okay, I don't know you, but I'm gonna see you in NFB.
Yeah, and Mana Hill, if you want to, I mentioned emailing me about a different topic. If you want to just mention it, and I can connect you, give you Franny's phone number or something.
Yeah.
While you're there. Another person commented. So they said that they visit NYC every month. They don't live in the United States, but they're a flight attendant.
Oh.
Lifestyle. Used to run with Flying Runners for about 5 years.
Mhm.
Who can I call to run with when I visit? I would love to mix my run with volunteering, and then a smiley face with little glasses.
Just email NYC. So we have about 17 or 18 workouts every week in all 5 boroughs. So there's a lot of workouts going on. Chances are one of those workouts, seeing as it happens every day of the week, minus Fridays are the only days that there are no workouts. Every other day. Yeah. Basically every day besides Fridays, there are workouts. So chances are you can hit up with one of those. Or you could join kind of like a side run or a side thing. Just email nyc@achillesinternational.org. And let's do it. That's really cool.
Yeah, we'd love.
What airline you fly for? Put it in the comments.
Yeah, you're flying a lot this month.
I'm flying a lot. Maybe I'll see you.
Okay, so your next question is, how do you cool yourself down during races? So kind of related to the other one, but this time you didn't mess up. You're not after the race. You're still in it.
Yeah. Oh God, this cooling down during races, it brings me back to some very nightmarish recent marathons that I did. So 2 ways, right? I mean, the only real way you're gonna do it during the race is if you run by a med tent and grab a pack of ice, right? That's probably the only way you're gonna do that. If you're running with ice, I think we talked about it in a recent thing, but basically you got to make sure there's as little air as possible in the Ziploc, right? So, and that air, it's going to keep coming as the ice melts. And so basically every 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you have to kind of open a little corner of the Ziploc, try to squeeze out as much of the air as possible without squirting out the actual water, because the water is helpful. Seal it back up. And then the easiest way to run with an ice pack is actually under one arm. And if you're blind and you're using a hand tether, then you put it under the arm that you're not tethering with, right? Because if you put it under your tether arm, all it takes is for your guide to pull that tether kind of hard one direction, and then your arm kind of opens and you drop the ice pack, which is not ideal. So you put it under the arm opposite of the one that you're holding a tether. And the reason why I do that is you want to get it as close as possible to as big of a vein or artery as possible, right? And so holding the ice to your chest, for example, there's not a lot of big vessels and stuff that goes kind of on the surface of your pecs. So it might feel like your chest kind of cooling down, but it's not actually cooling you down systematically, right? So you want to put it, where you think, I mean, same place where you would take temp. So under your arms, you can't really run with it on your neck necessarily. But if you want 10 seconds of relief, then you can kind of put it on the side of your neck, not on the front, right on either side. One thing I'd say, if you're cycling, if you're doing like a really hot triathlon or a bike race or something like that, then tucking it, kind of like opening the bag and pouring the ice in the top of your jersey is actually really cool. You could tuck your jersey into your cycling bibs, and then you just pour it in. That way the ice kind of sits around your middle. That's really cool. Harder to do with like running clothing, but if you're wearing cycling stuff, that's something. One of my my cycling pilots, because I ride tandem, right? As a blind athlete, I ride tandem bike, and so one of my pilots, he does not do well in the heat. And he'll only remind me of this during a hot race. Like, he never tells me this before the race, but like halfway through a race, he's like, "Yeah, by the way, I kind of get dizzy and I stop, like my vision goes bad if I get really hot." I'm like, "Oh, thanks. Like, good to know we're both going to be blind on this race." But that's something he did. He did, I think it was half Ironman Tulsa or somewhere in the Midwest, a summer or two ago. And it was like 95 degrees, blazing sun, like no cloud, no tree cover or anything like that. And he was just pouring ice into the neck of his cycling jersey, tucked it in. And he was just like sloshing as he was running, and biking too. You could just kind of hear the ice like sloshing around his middle, but it saved him. He finished, so it works. Cool.
Okay, so this is someone who is new. In regards to this program for children with special needs, as this is how I found the program.
Oh, cool.
How does this work for the sign up, the age range, and typical way of handling, developing the child's ability?
Yeah, great. So every borough, right, has its own workouts. When you create the profile, you select under 18, and then you select whatever locations you want to attend, and it'll kind of get funneled into that. So for example, if you're in Manhattan and you're a person with disability under 18, then you get funneled to the Manhattan Central Park Team Achilles Kids Workouts, and that's managed by Lindsay. And so once you sign up, she'll kind of reach out, start that conversation. Obviously, everyone's different. No two people are made the same. So like we kind of try to cater it as much as possible just based on what is needed. In terms of volunteers under 18, in case that's a curiosity, there are no volunteers under 18 guiding kids with disabilities under 18, but the adult workouts have volunteer guides who are under 18. And those are some of the best guides we have. They're never alone with an athlete, but they're a lot of times secondary guide or even primary guide, and they're pretty awesome. So yeah, hit us up if you have any questions, nyc@achillesinternational.org. Cool. That's all the questions. All right, right on. I think the next Connect session will be August 1st, August 2nd, which is a Thursday. Usually it's the first Thursday of each month, right? But because next Thursday is July 4th and I'll be in Orlando and Catherine will be somewhere really fun, we didn't do that weekend or that Thursday. So yeah, I think that's about it. Hope you all had a good session. Hope to see you in the park soon. Don't forget to stay cool, stay hydrated, bring water. If you drink too much water without rehydrating with enough electrolytes, you will have hyponatremia, and that's not good. So make sure you electrolyte yourself, not just, pound gallons and gallons of water. I think that's about it. Catch y'all on the next one.